And it kind of starts because, obviously, as people know, like trans rights and all that have been a subject of contentious debate in this country for years at this point. And a lot of people have tried to put a stop to kids like taking actions that constitute changing their like gender identity. And apparently, getting a haircut is a part of that because, according to Newsweek, Republican lawmakers in Arkansas have introduced a bill that would, to like be more specific on what it entails, it would allow lawsuits against anyone who facilitates a minor's transition, as it put it, and included in that would be hairdressers and barbers who give quote gender nonconforming haircuts. And I didn't even know that was a thing, a haircut that was gender nonconforming, but that shows what I know, I guess. And anyway, this bill is called the Vulnerable Youth Protection Act and would allow parents to sue people, including the barbers, for a maximum of 15 years and up to $10 million. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, I understand there are people out there who like hate trans people, but you don't think that's a bit steep, for giving the, like, again, facilitating their transition? And that doesn't mean like doctors or medical professionals who are taking part in like the physical changing of a child's gender. It's like facilitating their gender transition. Like, come on, that's a bit steep. Like $10 million. How do you measure that anyway? How do you measure that's worth $15 and 15 years of in prison and $10 million? Like, how do you prove that? And I mean, besides just how extreme the bill is, like, probably the dumbest aspect of the whole thing is that there are things that are considered non-conforming, that gender non-conforming, that don't even make any sense. Like, how can I mean, I already went over it, but this is like the dumbest part of it. How can a haircut be considered gender non-conforming enough that you can sue them? I mean, what does that look like? I mean, I know there are haircuts that are like gender neutral, and there are haircuts where I mean, maybe it's not as much a thing for girls. I mean, it probably is, but for boys, where like if a boy has a certain haircut, they can get made fun of for being like metrosexual or whatever. I mean, not that that's right, but that it happens. But like, is that what they're referring to? Is that a gender non-conforming haircut? I mean, I think the closest thing I can get to like a gender non-conforming haircut is like what, a bowl haircut, because it's pretty not specific gender wise. I mean, there are women and men who can wear a haircut like that, or boys and girls, because I mostly see like children with haircuts like that. But and also, I mean, in this day and age, are there really that many haircuts that both genders like wouldn't be comfortable? Well, not be comfortable, but that you could not see anyone of a certain gender wearing. At least that's from my point of view. I feel like that's kind of a thing that's taken place in society, where there are very few haircuts that I'd say are something where you could not see someone of the other gender wearing it. But apparently that is the case. So, and apparently it's worth. I mean, I know I keep going back to it, but $10 million. Like, first of all, I doubt most barber shops have $10 million lying around. And second, I mean, isn't the point of when you get money from a lawsuit, like, you lost this amount of money that you're owed for whatever reason, because of whoever you're suing made you lose it, basically, or they owe you that money? How do you determine they owe you $10 million for giving your kid a haircut that's gender non-conforming? How do you decide that that's how much that it's worth that much? I don't know. I just don't. I don't get that. And then also on top of that, there has been discussion about the bill. Obviously, it's not without its supporters, despite all I've said. State Representative Mary Bentley said, according to Newsweek, "This is about protecting children from being pushed into gender ideology. We need to ensure that kids are not being coerced into decisions they do not understand." Well, is getting a haircut something they don't understand? I mean, I understood that pretty good when I was a kid. What was happening? Do kids these days not know what a haircut is anymore? I mean, and also, does that mean if a kid gets a haircut they like and they're not even questioning their gender identity or anything, but the parents consider it gender nonconforming? What is that, grounds for a lawsuit now? Anyway, oh yeah, on top of that, teachers who are just using a child's preferred pronouns would be suable if this bill is passed. And stuff like this is like, no wonder no one wants to be a teacher anymore. You're pretty much damned if you do and damned if you don't, because if you don't call a kid by their preferred pronouns, then that's obviously upsetting to the kid. And if you do it, then, well, I guess there are parents who can get $10 million out of you, which, on a teacher's salary, I'm sure they just have that lying around. So, why even bother with anything? I mean, no, being a teacher is probably like, what? I mean, you hear the most important job in the world and stuff like that. So, if that's the case, then, well, I mean, I guess I'm sorry to say to the teachers, but they're kind of getting screwed. That, at least if you live in Arkansas, where you're liable to lose $10 million over there. So, anyway, there are serious doubts the bill is going to pass, apparently, because, well, with a bill like this, there are going to be people who claim it's unconstitutional, and there's Probably a good chance there is, uh, but even if it does, or whether or not parts will be struck down by the courts, because there's a lot of argument that it's kind of accepted it's not going to pass in everything and it's going to be kept the way it is. But whether it does or not, I mean, it's nice to see that there are people who care about, there are people out there who can care about and are concerned with free speech. Unless it's fault involving, trans people, then of course, screw the free speech. We need authoritarianism. But that's just the way it is in the glorious USA.